Tuesday, October 1st, 2019. Ladies and gentlemen, this is About Last Night. Good morning, Place to Be Reviews, fans, friends, subscribers alike. I am Etep. This is About Last Night. I am joined this morning by my very special guest who's probably up earlier than he wants to be. Ladies and gentlemen, hail Sal Vador.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Sal Vador. It is October 1st, so it's time to get spoopy.
That's right. And somebody needs to go wake Billy Joel Armstrong up, apparently.
Nah, let him sleep. His career's over anyway.
I think that's like the general sentiment with that meme is like, well, people just, you just leave Billy Joel Armstrong alone. He's good. Just let him sleep.
He's had a very fruitful career for the last almost 30 years. He can take a break. It's fine.
Yeah, we're good with that. We're good with that. So we did the podcast last night, and it devolved a little bit during the during the broadcast, but we weren't sure if we were even going to do the show last night live or on Anchor, because we were all kind of running behind. Yesterday just kind of got away from me and MJ as well. We were joined by Cody from Goober Brothers Entertainment last night. Those of you who were in the chat watched the show. It was fun. We had a good time, but yeah, a lot of cutaways last night, and but no, it was still a good time. I always enjoy it. Loudy was scheduled to be on last night, but he was a bit under the weather, so we kind of said, well, just take the night off. You're a good brother. So he did, and yeah, we covered some MCU, a lot of MCU stuff last night, and like I said, a lot of cutaways. But the one I have, there's a couple things I wanted to touch on from last night yet, and I'll throw this up to you while this is loading up. The Spider-Man 3 news. Okay, mm-hmm. This is the basis of one of the articles I found this morning, and it talks about the villain for Spider-Man 3. And they're leaning towards Kraven the Hunter.
Of course.
Which was rumored before all the MCU stuff happened,
right?
Because they wanted to they wanted to do like the Kraven's Last Hunt storyline from the comic.
They don't have the balls.
That's what I hear from everybody that's familiar with the comics, is that there is no way that the MCU is going to try to do that story.
Right. So I can, without any spoilers, I can tell you that Kraven's Last Hunt is, yes, a Spider-Man comic. However, it's more of a Kraven comic. That whole story arc, it focuses mostly on Kraven because up until that point, he'd been kind of a joke character, like he wasn't taken very seriously. And he spends a good, I'd say, 80% of that comic butt-ass naked. So, like people, the Marvel Legend 2-pack that came out sometime, I think it was this year or last year, people complained about the cankles and his little capri pants that I was wearing. Like, you're lucky he's wearing pants at all. Because he was naked for more than half that comic.
That's that'd be definitely an interesting choice for an MCU movie. I see that going more towards the Sony side.
I could see if they were able to, I guess, have an agreement, maybe someone like Showtime or Stars or HBO, someone that isn't beholden to the censorship of the FCC or anything like that, where they can do what they want. They could pull that off, because there's some of that comic book's pretty fucked, especially the last few panels. It's been out long enough so I could do spoilers, but I'm not going to. But there's something that they do not have the balls to do, and they won't.
Well, that was another thing about the comic. They were talking about adapting it to include, now, like I said, mind you, this is before all this stuff happened with with Spider-Man leaving the MCU during the Sony and Disney debacle, they were going to move Craven from is he of Russian descent, I believe,
Correct.
and they were going to make him from Wakanda.
Didn't they already do that with Killmonger?
That's well, see, I don't. That's the thing is, I don't have a frame of reference about Killmonger from the comics. So was he number one? Was he always from Wakanda? And if not, where was he from?
That's I'm not as familiar with Black Panther. I'll be straight up honest about that. As far as I know, Killmonger was kind of like his big bad, like his arch nemesis kind of deal. And as far as I know, he's always been from Wakanda. But it's like they already did that in the with Killmonger. Like, why would they try that same trope again with another character?
I guess it's just that formulaic approach that Kevin Feige has grown so accustomed to.
I get like the thing is, people like I myself liked Killmonger in the movie. I thought him and Claw were probably the two most interesting characters in that entire movie. But it's kind of like, oh, we fucked up because we killed Killmonger in the first one, so here's Craven. Which, no, okay, thanks for nothing, Disney.
Yeah, I don't. Like I said, I don't. I don't know why they decided to. Why they would decide to try to do that to flip, Killmonger over. But I don't know. It just or not Killmonger, but Craven. When they could just as easily, create another character. But that just goes back to them trying to use, the tent poles and the well known characters and just flip them and tweak them to what they want to the 2019 standard
Hmm.
and then move forward with it and expect nobody to complain. But if they do complain, they always have their built-in defense mechanisms.
Right. That's why they do it.
The isms and the ists. So that is, I mean, to me, it's lazy. It's just lazy
Hmm.
writing and lazy storytelling. When you have, especially with Spider-Man, God knows how many years of source material to work with, and
Hmm.
they have a catalog of villains. And what was it? Oh God, we were talking last night. I think you made the comment,
About his rogues gallery, yeah.
yeah, that's it. And instead of doing Lady Venom and Gwenpool, they said, what was the one you mentioned? Shriek, I think it was. And
Yeah.
I've heard of her.
Hmm.
And they were also talking about now. This is one of the projects, and I'm probably gonna get flack for this, but Midnight's Edge did a video on all the canceled Sony projects. I think it was last year,
Hmm.
or maybe late 2017, and they had a Black Cat and Silver Sable movie
Oh,
rumored.
jeez.
Yeah, and they were going to tie that in, obviously, with Spider-Man. Um, but I don't know how that would go over. I mean, are those two characters? Like I said, this is a lot of the comic source material. Like I'm aware of the characters, but I haven't read the issues, and if I have, it's been so long that I don't remember a lot of it. Um, but I mean, I don't know. Could those two carry a movie? What kind of story arc are they going to, you know, put those two into? How would they correlate to Spider-Man? Yeah, I don't really think you could do an offshoot movie with those two without Spider-Man, could you? It doesn't seem like it would work.
I mean, let me put it to you this way: if it was going to work to any degree, I would be able to pick out a storyline where it was just the two of them off the top of my head. You know
So
what I
that
mean?
yeah. So you know the source material really well, which is good.
Like it's one of those things where I think they just want they keep doing this, cart before the horse kind of deal. They want to give like every single character an origin story, just instead of having them as an established character. Like, what if Black Cat and Silver Sable had been around this whole time regardless? Like, it's a big world. I'm sure there's plenty of shit happening even two towns over that I'm not aware of. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? They keep having all this shit happen, and it's like microcosm, like this little tiny area of New York is where all these superheroes come from, and it's clearly not the case. We saw in Doctor Strange when he went to Nepal.
Yeah.
So the Ancient One has been doing her thing for God knows how long, and no one in the Marvel universe knew about it. it's not that far fetched to say, oh yeah, this woman that likes basically Marvel's Catwoman dresses up in spandex and uses a whip and fights crime, but also likes to steal things. Like, okay.
Did they just take that right from DC or
They copy each other all
yeah.
the time. So it's to the point now where if they tried to sue each other over who created what first, then both companies would go out of business. So I think they just have like this mutual agreement. And I just now noticed that one of my Batmans, his paint is off.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, that one I reviewed from the 2-pack. That's
Yes.
why it looks so weird because the line for his pouch is on the side instead of the top. That's why it looks so weird.
Yeah, I noticed the paint job on that one. Just a different look.
Yeah, it's from a movie or something that they made, but it's a crap figure, and I'm really upset that I spent $50 on it.
Oof, yeah, I would be too at that price, definitely. Now the next thing with Spider-Man is, they're talking about he's got one more solo movie, which is Spider-Man 3 in the MCU. They've got his last like team up, slash Marvel appearance
Mm-hmm.
that he's gonna make. And the speculation circulating around that is that it's gonna be with Captain Marvel. Yeah, and basically that's just going to make him look bad to me.
Oh man, she's the strongest ever.
I don't see a world where you can put him with Captain Marvel and they don't make him look like a complete idiot and then send
Mm-hmm.
him back to Sony, which is I don't see why Marvel would do that. I mean, I can see like spite being a reason, but for
Mm-hmm.
still, that's like cutting off your nose to spite your face, because there's
Right.
there's always the chance that they strike another deal after these two pictures, which in all likelihood they probably will, because I don't think Marvel deep down they don't think Sony has a right to use the character. They don't know how to use it properly, and after
Yeah, too bad Sony actually legitimately owns a portion of the character. Like Marvel will never own Spider-Man fully ever again.
No, and that's what really bothered me is during this whole thing before they came back together, everybody complaining about, oh, well, he belongs, Marvel owns him, he belongs in Marvel, he belongs to the MCU. I'm like, he's made 5 appearances in the MCU, been there for just a shade over 3 years now,
Barely, yeah.
barely 3 years. He's only had 2 solo movies. This is not a character that the MCU was built on.
Yeah, it'd be different if it was, Iron Man that they tried to take him out of Endgame at the last second or something.
Hmm. Yeah, we can't use Iron Man anyway. Wait, what? What? Yeah, that doesn't work.
Turns out Paramount still owns the rights to these characters.
Yep, and it's like the Hulk situation with Universal. It's like,
Hmm.
but I really don't want to see a solo Hulk movie with Mark Ruffalo.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be. I would be as interested in that. I would rather watch the Ang Lee Hulk again, as
yeah.
bad as that is.
I'm pretty sure that's why they nerfed him in Endgame. Like they made him like he very much did. I'm sorry, words are hard. And they nerfed him in Endgame because you could tell when he was Smart Hulk, he just didn't seem as strong because Hulk's strength comes from his rage.
Yep.
And then they fucking fried his arm, so now he's not gonna be able to use it, so he can only use his brains. So I think that was their way of saying, hey, this is our workaround for not having a solo Hulk movie because well, he's smart and isn't smashing things. So
Yep. And then they had the whole scene where he was embarrassed because he was smashing stuff, and
right, it seems so gratuitous, is what he said.
yeah, it seems gratuitous. Well, that's like the precipice of your entire your character is
Hmm.
the Hulk smash, and the Hulk is a big green monster. Now, granted, he can control it, but I mean, at the same time, it's like they didn't have to make him completely like a soy based Hulk, which was
Yeah, it's like Banner's driving a car and the car is really low on power steering fluid. Like he can control it, but it's a struggle and it's more difficult than it should be.
Mhm.
But the thing with the Hulk, like the thing they don't realize is that when the Hulk came out, like originally he turned into the Hulk at night. It wasn't when he got angry. That happened like a couple years later. But you got to think about who was reading comics at the time. It wasn't cool to read comics. So it was the people that, were in science classes and in AV club getting picked on, getting beat up. And just that shit comes home with you because bullies would follow you home and they'd literally beat the shit out of you, not just call you bad names on the internet.
Mhm.
And you got to think how much of a power fantasy that is for someone in that situation that all I have to do is get angry and I can turn into this big strong monster and no one can hurt me anymore. Like, but what would we know about that? What would we know about comics and
You know, it's like they just do it and they don't, they don't. It's like whatever. We can adapt this. It's just I can correlate this to Thor. All right, you have 50 plus years of Thor mythos to draw from and make your movies from.
not
And
even that. You have centuries if you were to go into the
yeah.
deep legend of Thor. Like they don't necessarily the guy's name is Thor. He's based off
Mhm.
the legend. They don't even really have to go into the comics. They can go a lot further back if they want to do that.
Absolutely. And it's like they don't want to because that would be difficult.
Right. The path of least resistance.
Hmm. And that
Ask Kubrick how many times he took the path of least resistance.
none.
But yeah,
None would be the answer, I believe.
exactly. Ask Guillermo del Toro how often he takes the path of least resistance. Like, with the exception of Pacific Rim Job, fucking all of his movies are basically practical effects. Like, there's a reason why the two Hellboy movies look so fantastic, and Pan's Labyrinth and The Devil's Backbone, and I can list all of his fucking movies, but they're all fantastic.
Pan's Labyrinth. I remember I watched that one. That was that was a good movie. That,
Mm-hmm.
that was good. Oh, I haven't seen that. That one came out years ago.
Yep.
Um,
2007, 2006, something like that.
it's hard to believe that was 13 years ago already.
Ugh. I feel like Tim Allen when he shaves his beard and it's just growing back.
I couldn't shave mine off. I'd look funny. I would look.
Tell me about it. I
Yeah,
saw I saw a pie chart that perfectly summed it up, and it was like reasons why I can't grow a beard. It was like I'm too young. It's patchy. And then the whole circle was in red, and it was like red. I'm in the military.
yeah. That would be. But you can still have like the mustache, can't you?
Yeah, if you want to be that guy with a mustache.
I know, I know. It was like one of the jobs I used to work. It wasn't a finance job. It was I can't. What the hell was it? It was one of the retail jobs I worked. They're like, well, you can't have a goatee, but you can have a mustache. I was like, can I have a beard? No. I'm like, well, I'm just going to be clean shaved then because me with just a mustache and a bald head, that is not a good look for me.
Mm.
It just is not. Oh, there's a nice little setup. Yeah, that
Oh
Jeep
yeah,
right there. That Jeep right there.
the vamp.
Yes, that's a van. That's the one I had, and it had
That's
the
weird.
big toe behind seated laser, like
Oh yeah,
laser cannon.
got the toe hitch right there.
Yep. And I think I sold that and the I think I got like 50 bucks out of that set.
That's not bad.
No, it was in decent shape too. I have that little tank still. I kept that. One of my clone troopers
Yeah,
resides in that.
the Wolverine.
Yep.
Or not?
We
That's not the Wolverine. That's the armadillo.
Armadillo. That's actually Armadillo is the smaller one.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wolverine's the one with the missile launchers on the back.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. Yep. They're like the square box style.
Hmm.
Missiles. Okay. Yep.
And
I,
this is what I was telling you about, Pete. This little nub right
yeah.
here. There's a tiny little cap that sits on it. That's a machine gun. That little
Mhm.
cap, as long as it's not broken, is like 35, 40 bucks by itself.
Ouch.
Otherwise, this thing's 20 bucks.
Is it? That's like I said. That's like that. The Clone Wars or Clone Troop. The gunship with the
Hmm.
pods on the side.
Oh yeah.
I was looking at the gunship and it was decently priced, but the guy had removed the pods and was selling those separately for like $35 a piece, which
Mm,
basically almost doubled the price of the entire ship. So I'm like,
right. But if he sells them with the ship, then it's not worth as much.
nope, nope, it
Some
wasn't.
of it's worth a lot more if you part it out.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of learning that now, and it's like this is it's kind of crazy. Um, but yeah, so kind of to round it back to Spider-Man, I don't I don't think that pairing him with Captain Marvel, I don't think it will damage him to the point where they can't Sony couldn't do anything with him because obviously they're gonna they're going to make him. It's going to be the more, I believe, the more mature,
Mm-hmm.
uh, Spider-Man.
Back
Than
to his age.
yep,
Yep. I
finally.
I was thinking about this last night. So, if I'm not mistaken, the Doctor Strange movie comes out before Spider-Man 3, right?
Yes, it's the May release, and Spider-Man 3 is the July release.
So, and last I checked, Doctor Strange technically exists in the Sony universe because they mentioned him by name in one of the Sam Raimi movies.
Mm.
Now, what they could do, just because they're introducing the multiverse of madness or whatever, just have, him get sucked into the multiverse somehow and he spends a few years, quote unquote, years in there so Tom Holland can actually act his age when he comes out the other side and is in the Venom universe.
I would go for that a lot more than I would just throwing him in there somehow.
Yeah.
That's the thing is they have to be really careful with how they present him now, because people are always going to remember the Amazing Spider-Man debacle with
Oh, yeah.
with Andrew Garfield, and they're going to draw on that and say, well, look, well, to me it's like, okay, well, it's not what have you done, it's what have you done for me lately. And Into the Spider-Verse was great.
Hmm.
So they
I
oh, go ahead.
I was say I saw that for the first time and only time, probably about a month ago, whenever it came on Netflix, and it wasn't bad, but it didn't knock my dick in the dirt. Like I wasn't overly impressed, like a lot of people were.
Hmm.
I was just kind of like, okay, it's about Miles Morales learning about his powers and all that, and it had funny moments, and the animation was over the top and all that, so it felt like a comic book. But I don't know, I was just kind of okay. Like, when is the story gonna start? Like, I'd forgotten like the whole reason they were going after Kingpin to begin with.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. I thought it was cool, and that was one the kid loved, which obviously, it's so bright and colorful that
right,
it's going to be eye catching to the young ones. Yeah, that animation was way over the top. I thought it was well done. The big thing for me was the voice acting in the movie.
yeah, the voice acting was very good.
Yeah, the
Liev
guy.
Schreiber as Kingpin was pretty spot on.
Oh, he is. Liev Schreiber is he's so talented.
Hmm.
Um,
Best Sabretooth we ever got.
I was gonna that's where I was going. That he was awesome as Sabretooth.
Yeah,
Um,
they were gonna bring him back in Logan apparently, and I guess because he was shooting Ray Donovan at the time or something, he couldn't do it.
That's a shame, because that would really
Yeah.
added something else to that. Which that movie didn't really need anything else. It was good as it was, but
Mhm.
having you can't really go wrong with Liev Schreiber as making an appearance as Sabretooth.
Yeah.
Um, no, that was really cool. Let's see. Okay, so to kind of go back to the Spider-Man 3 thing, I'm going to do a screen share here. This article from
Hmm.
let's see. This is from Showbiz Cheat Sheet. I think this came out like it was about what 5-6 hours ago. Let's see.
At least it's not We Got This Covered.
No, I had an article from We Got This Cover from last night, but I'm like, I am not in the mood to deal with all those ads and pop-ups right now.
Hmm.
So we're on Showbiz Cheat Sheet. This came out late last night by Courtney Jackson. It says, and this kind of ties into the Craven thing, but then they talk about another one of the villains, and we've already seen him in one of the Marvel Spider-Man movies. Now that we know Spider-Man will stick with Marvel for at least one more movie, fans are firing up their villain theories for the next installment. Who will it be? It's no secret that Spider-Man 3 director John Watts wants Craven to face off with Peter Parker's Spidey. Given that the story has gone international, it makes sense. But what about looping another well-known adversary who's already made a film appearance? Fans and comic book geeks believe that Far From Home has already made the case for the Scorpion to show up.
Oh, they've made a case for tons of villains to show up. Why the Scorpion specifically?
The only reason I can see Scorpion specifically would be from Homecoming.
Hmm.
He was in the gang that got
Right.
locked up because of Spider-Man, and that would
Right.
be it. Just that post-credit scene. And
Oh yeah, and yeah, okay, so now he knows who he is. I get it.
yep, because he was in
Okay.
prison with Michael Keaton, the
Right.
Vulture. Yeah,
Hmm.
that whole scene. So I think that's where they were going with it, and they were
Okay.
talking about rolling the Sinister Six off of that,
Hmm.
and I'm like, I don't.
They could do a Sinister Seven if they wanted to, because they've
Oh,
got Scorpion.
mm-hmm.
They've got the other Shocker because he kills that one guy. He goes, there, you're the Shocker now.
Yes,
So they got
Bokeem Woodbine is the
yeah.
the actor's name. Yep.
So they got Shocker, Scorpion.
Mm-hmm.
They introduced the Prowler already because the guy's like my nephew Miles, the Dong Lover, gonna
Yep.
be Prowler.
Yep.
They've got they introduced Chameleon because that's the Dimitri, the bus driver. That's
Yes.
Chameleon, and that's Craven's cousin. So they got Chameleon by proxy. They got Craven, and who else did they have?
They have the Tinker, which
Yeah, the Tinker. Yeah, and I mean Michael Keaton's still alive. He could be the Vulture pretty easily.
I would die to see Michael Keaton reprise that role. He was really like one of the bright spots in Homecoming for me, just because it was so cool to see him play a villain.
Yeah.
Especially because that was like he's our Batman. Michael Keaton will always be. That came out when I was like 9 years old, and he is. I enjoyed the Christopher Nolan trilogy because Christian Bale was awesome in that iteration of Batman. But yeah, there's just the Michael Keaton Batman to me is just it's where it's at. But yeah, so I would really like to see that Sinister Six, but I want Rhino. I finally want to see Rhino done properly because Paul Giamatti, I think he could have honestly done that because Rhino's not like physically imposing. I mean, unless you're looking at the comics where it was just like a guy in kind of like a rhino costume.
Yeah, a guy in a suit. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, in this big mechanical, iteration of Rhino, that Paul Giamatti would be fine in that. I mean, it doesn't have to be, some, big muscular, guy. It's just, it could, he's tech, so.
I don't know if they've done it, but I'd like to see the Rhino get the Crimson Gem of Sidorak and become like a Rhino Juggernaut.
Oh, that would be neat.
I'm sure it's already been done, but oh well. I'm sorry.
You're
interrupted.
No, you're fine. You're making sense. That's the problem. These things we always talk about this. It's like we're sitting here and we're just spitballing ideas and theorizing about things, and it's like it's better than what they come up with in the movies a lot of the time. So
it's like my theory for Taskmaster and Red Guardian and the Black Widow movie. I'm like, what I said makes sense, but I don't think they're going to go that way.
Probably not.
But that would be because part of Craven's thing is that he's really old, and they get into that in Craven's Last Hunt. Like he's actually very old, and he keeps himself young through these like herbal, like kind of voodoo, like baths and drinks, and it's also like a hallucinogenic for him. It's a drug and all that. So they could just introduce him in the Black Widow movie, and then ta-da! Now he can be in Spider-Man.
Again. That means you make sense and it would have some continuity to it, so they probably won't do that. They'll have to tell like some kind of origin story and they'll drag it out, and it's like a lot of this stuff like doesn't need origin stories. It's like when Spider-Man goes back to Sony, God, please do not do another origin story. You don't need to. Yeah. There's no need to do that.
There really isn't.
We've seen it, how many times play out now. It's the same thing with Batman. You don't need another origin story.
I don't know how many times we've seen Uncle Ben's rice become ready. Like we don't need to, we know great power, great responsibility. Uncle Ben dies, blah blah blah. It's like great. Moving on. It's like Superman. Like we know he came from Krypton. We don't need to see Jor-El. Like we got it.
Yeah. How many times do we have to see that one? And I liked Man of Steel.
Speaking of which, what would be really interesting in the Joker. I was watching the trailer and you see them like the cops they're running by with the gas cans and stuff in front of that theater. Since the Batman is supposed to take place in the 90s, there's a running theory that this Joker takes place in the same universe because they've already said that little kid is Bruce Wayne that he gives the smile to through the fence.
Okay,
it'd be really interesting if Joker kills his parents in this movie.
That would be a switch up, and it would be cool because they did that in the '89 movie.
Mm-hmm.
He was responsible for Thomas and Martha Wayne's demise,
right?
So they technically could do that if they really wanted to.
So it would just be and that's what I like, Easter eggs and setups in movies for further movies instead of just being like, oh, here's an origin story. It's like, why don't you put their origin in a different movie and have them show up later?
Mm-hmm.
Like a sequel is supposed to do.
I think really what it boils down to is it goes along with that formulaic paint by numbers approach they always like to take to these movies.
Yeah, that's true.
And that's what we were talking about last night was, is that, that's not really sustainable. I mean, you they were talking about, pumping out 4 movies in 2021, and it's like, people have to realize that you're basically seeing the same movie with just different parts.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
It's like the new iPhone when it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
And I say this as an iPhone user. It's like I'm still rocking an iPhone 6. Like, A, because it's paid off and I don't want to have to have a phone payment again.
Yep.
B, it still works even though it's kind of dying on me. But it's like, okay, if I buy the new iPhone every year, I'm getting the same phone over again. So I'm just gonna wait until like next year's iPhone comes out and I'll get that one instead. That way, it's an actual different phone.
Yep. Same here, because I'm an Android user, and up until, was it like February of 2018, I had the same Galaxy S4 that I got in like 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And when I went in the store, when it finally died, I went into the store to replace it, and the guy was like, "Oh wow," he goes, "I'm surprised you still have this." I'm like, "Well, it worked." I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
why would I spend, because like I bought a S8, which, the S10 is out now, which my wife got, and it's like, I don't need, I was like, what's different on it? And he told me, I was like, so there's really, between the last 4 models, there's negligible differences. I mean, it's not anything that, is going to set the world on fire. The Galaxy S10, it's just a little bit bigger.
But we're not supposed to ask questions. We're just supposed to consume.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, I'm not, because he was like, oh, well, because the S8, was like, the S9 was coming. Oh, do you want to get an S9? It's an extra, like, $150 or whatever, $200. I'm like, well, I'm already paying $800 for this freaking, this, which is, it's not even a phone, it's a computer. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't really need this one's fine. I'm like, I didn't know how to use everything on my S4, to be honest with you. I'm just not tech savvy.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone's like, well, how do you not know, all this technology stuff? You're only 39. I'm like, I use what I need to do, what I use what I need to, and then the stuff that I don't know how to use, I just leave it alone. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not very adventurous when it comes to tech, because I'm always afraid of messing something up, and then
Right.
not knowing how to fix it.
That's like my at one point my late stepdad, he somehow, I don't know how he did, this was years ago, he somehow uninstalled the internet off my mom's computer. I'm not joking. So we had to put up that startup disk in there and restart the whole thing.
oh,
So
oh,
yeah, to this day I do not know how he did it, but somehow he uninstalled the internet, like the browser itself.
that takes talent,
Mm-hmm.
to just uninstall the entire internet off a
Yeah,
computer.
because I used my phone. I was like, how do I download like it was not like the internet itself, because the internet's what comes out of your wall, but I'm talking
Yeah,
like
the
the
browser.
yeah, like Internet Explorer or some shit. I'm like, how do you? And they're like, oh, just go to this website. I was like, well, I can't do that.
There's no browser.
Right.
Oh God. That sounds like something my dad would do, but my dad would just, like, he would try to turn the computer on and get mad and just shoot it or throw it out the window. Like
Oh
that
no.
that would be my dad, because like, it's so funny, he rebuilds old muscle cars, and him and my mom, they go down to like Alabama and North Carolina and Florida and Tennessee in the winter, and they go down there, and he goes, part shopping, or he'll look for other cars, and yeah, he's always like, he'll sit there, and I was over there one day, and my mom gets on the computer, and my dad's sitting there yelling at her what parts to look for, and I'm like, why don't you just how to learn the computer? He goes, why? I've got your mother. I'm like, well played, old man, well played indeed.
That's funny.
He's still got a flip phone. I call him Agent Gibbs.
Nice.
He does. We were over at the house, my old house, and he was helping me fix something in the bathroom. It was sitting on the counter. Then I took a picture of it. I was like, oh, NCIS is at my house, Agent Jethro Gibbs. And Dad's like,
That's
what? And so I showed, because he doesn't watch the show. So I showed it to him, and he was like, well, the goddamn thing works. I'm like,
true.
yep. I'm like, well, I was messing around with him because he's 71. I'm like, I'm gonna have to get you one of those June bugs pretty soon with the big ass buttons on it so you can see him. Ha ha. Because he's got his glasses on, looking down the end of his nose, trying to read his buttons on his phone.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, oh boy. All right, so let's get back to this article. Who is Scorpion to Spider-Man in the Marvel canon? He didn't really have too long of a role in Homecoming. He was pretty much locked up in that after that beginning scene with the ATM.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. Longtime enemies, Scorpion and Spider-Man have a storied comic book history that began when Mac Gargan, aka Scorpion, was hired by the Daily Bugle's resident hater, J. Jonah Jameson, wanted Gargan, a PI, to get dirt on Spider-Man, but he always outsmarted him. Gargan turned into Scorpion after an experiment funded by Jameson went wrong, gradually giving him some characteristics of a Scorpion, including strength and speed. He also went insane and became a murderer. Oh, that's a shame. Since he first came on the comic book scene in the 1960s, Scorpion has hated and resented Spider-Man and has gone so far as to kidnap Aunt May and attempt to kill Mary Jane. Because of the mutation, he also hates Jameson.
Mm-hmm.
To top that off, he has become a version of Venom, having merged with the symbiote after Eddie Brock.
True.
See, that I did not know.
Mm-hmm. It basically looks like Monster Venom, like Big Venom, except he has a big old scorpion tail on the back of him.
Okay. All right. Yeah, they had him in Into the Spider-Verse, too.
Oh, yeah, with the legs and all that.
Yep.
Yeah, that was actually a pretty cool representation of the scorpion.
I thought, like I said, after just seeing him in the movie and then going back and in some of the older comics, just from images I've looked up, I was like, yeah, that was pretty cool. My son has one of those Look and Find books, and it's a Spider-Man one,
Mm-hmm.
and it has like all the old Spider-Man characters in it. It's pretty cool. I'll send you some screen caps of it.
Nice.
Mac Gargan was in Marvel's Spider-Man Homecoming, but he's also heavily intertwined with the Venom story. Movie version Gargan is sitting in jail with Vulture, who, along with comic book Kraven, was part of the Sinister Six. You see,
Mm-hmm.
they're all connected. Marvel's logs remind us that when Scorpion turned into Venom, he became part of a collective called the Sinister 12. Many
Mm-hmm.
Gargan and Scorpion is the common thread that will weave the pieces of the Spider-Verse together. Fans think there's a way to break Scorpion out of prison so he can pop up in Spider-Man 3. As Screen Rant mentions, the post-credit scene of Homecoming teased he might be in the sequel, but that wasn't the case. That's what everyone believed. According to Cinema Blend, Watt stated there wasn't a way to work him or Vulture into the new story. Fans think things could change in the third film, either with Spidey having to battle a tag team of Kraven and Scorpion, or as separate headaches. Even a small cameo would open the door. Marvel loves its cameos and post-credit scenes, so if Gargan flashes his face in Spider-Man 3 for a few moments as part of some larger plot, it could tie into another part of the franchise. How? The on and off chatter about a Sinister Six film could manifest into something new, either for Sony or Marvel. Now that both parties are working together, it's possible that Scorpion helps another set of heroes or villains score their own spin-off. Never say never. Watts also stated that he likes the idea of both Vulture and Gargan are still out there in the world. And with Marvel, anything can happen. Fans can look forward to Spider-Man 3 in summer of 2021. Yeah, that is, like I said, that's the July 3rd, or 2nd or 3rd of 2021 that they're going to do that. Hey, David Applegate's here. Thank you for joining us. Hail, David. Just got a notification. I posted it in, I think, 3 or 4 different groups and on my page and my personal page. So YouTube is just really stacking the deck here.
I'm on the stream and I have yet to get a notification.
It's funny because it sends me emails, and says you're live on your channel. I'm like, oh really? I wasn't aware of that. Thank you.
Oh lordy.
Yeah, they're really kind of dicking the smaller channels around, which really stinks for us,
I don't know if you've heard about what's going on with toy channels at the moment.
No.
There's rumblings on the internet. I've heard it from kind of what I would call not the top 3 necessarily. Like there's one really big one, Shartimus Prime. He has like 500,000 subs almost, or is over that at this point. The Fwoosh, Retro Blasting, like a lot of the big dogs in the toy part of YouTube have all basically made it known that YouTube's talking about demonetizing completely, permanently toy channels. I guess there's a few of, I guess what normies would consider the big dogs, and what they're doing is like they're playing characters, or they have like, oh, it's Captain Spudsy or whatever is like the YouTube channel. I'm just making that one up, but
Mhm.
it's used as an example because I don't know about how libel laws work and shit like that. But supposedly, some of these big toy channels have their own toy lines,
Yeah.
and they're reviewing their own toys on the channel and basically advertising to kids like, "Hey, go buy my toy because this toy is really great." And
Mhm.
so I guess there's some law in place about advertising directly to children, and then the ads for their videos are their own toys playing for the ad for their videos, and there's just a whole lot of kind of bad dealings going on. So this is all coming out in some kind of lawsuit or other, and YouTube's taking a look at demonetizing toy channels permanently, or anything that quote is kid friendly or or is directed at children.
Mhm.
And it's kind of more than just a big deal for toy channels. I don't know if you recall, but probably 4 months ago at this point, you remember in the fandom how like Nerdrotic and like World Class, a lot of the related videos were content for children.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's because YouTube may be slowly trying to say, oh, this stuff is meant for children, and if it's meant for children, we can demonetize it.
Mm, mm,
So,
mm. That's so shady.
hmm
Let's see. Before we move on, let's see, David. So to speed up YouTube, they're getting rid of the live chat. Well, that stinks. The YouTube is reviewing advertising, trying to get rid of large channels to have memberships. You were talking about the toy channels, and
hmm
Trey watches some of these, and Ryan's toy review is one of
hmm
them that pops into my mind because
yeah,
I subscribe to it for him, so the videos come up because he likes watching those.
hmm
And what's the other one? CKN Toys, I think the little kid on there.
hmm
He watches those two all the time. That one, and there's one. It's like I think it's a father and son. They do it's called T-Rex Ranch or something like that. They do a lot of Jurassic Park stuff, the big surprise eggs and all that. Um, I didn't know that Ryan had he's got like 20 million subscribers.
He also has his own toy line.
Yes, and we were that was my next one. We were in Walmart, and he has clothes and toys. And my son pointed out I was looking for a shirt for him, and we were in the clothing section, and hey, it's Ryan, and I'm like, what? And I look at the tag, and yep, here he's got it's like kids, like it was like pajamas or something like that, and I'm like, he's basically bankrolling his whole family. I mean, I looked at his video
hmm
views. I mean, most of his videos are like 10 million views.
Yep.
If they demonetize that, I mean, that just basically like takes his family's, because I doubt his parents are working at this point
Oh, absolutely not.
because they're producing his videos.
hmm
They probably hired somebody because the quality of them is great. It really is. But I mean, and it's funny because this kid, I kind of look back through his channel, and he's been doing this for like what 4 or 5 years now.
hmm
I mean, this is like, yeah, you're bankrolling your entire family. So it's like for them to do that, and I mean, it's not, I'm not saying, oh, woe is me, 20 million subscribers, he's getting demonetized, but I mean, it's really, you work to build that fan base up,
Right.
and then for them to just say they move the goalpost and say, well, no, that's not fair. Well, you can't consistently screw over the people that are helping you make your site profitable.
Yeah, and that's well, one thing I'm sure it's probably come across their desk if they're being savvy about it, but because you gotta kids watch it because he's a kid too, and
Mhm.
all that shit. And then I'm sure there are some people like, oh, look how cute this little kid is playing with toys, blah blah blah. It's like at some point he's gonna get to be 12,
Mhm.
13, 14, and he's not either a not going to want to do it anymore, or it's not going to be cute anymore.
Yep.
It's like this guy at work. I won't use his name on here, but we call him. I'll just say uh, Knife. That's the first thing I looked at on my desk. So we call him like Little Knife or Mini Knife or something because he's a young pup. He's like 18, 19, but he's also like 5'2".
Oh, geez.
So it's like oh we give him a hard time, we rib him a little bit, and he's a good sport about it. And I tell people, I'm like, when he gets to be my age, he's not going to be a good sport about it anymore. Like it's
Mhm.
funny now because he's like low man on the totem pole, and he's so like innocent and kid like in his behaviors that it's just like he's a kid wearing a
Yeah.
uniform. But it's like when he gets to be 30 and people are still doing that to him, it's not going to be cute anymore, and he's going to develop a bulldog complex.
Yep.
But I don't know. Yeah, David's in the chat talking about the live chat's going away because that slows down YouTube. I'm not sure how it slows down YouTube, but he makes a good point about like they might start putting it behind a subscriber wall. Like you have to have 10,000 subs to have a live stream, or you have to have this, that, and the other. And it's like, why? Like people are using your platform, YouTube. You're making money on the advertisements on the side of the page anyway. What does it matter to you?
Yeah. It doesn't. Let's see. What did he say here? Nothing is set in stone, but yeah, YouTube is profitable. Imagine no live chat for small channels or needing 10K for a super chat. Yeah, that's ridiculous. Because for for me anyway, I don't I'm 100. I picked up a sub last night, so I'm 108 subscribers right now.
Mm-hmm.
And to have no live chat, I mean, trust me, I mean, most of our streams I think are definitely entertaining enough to where you can sit there and just listen. But I would not want that. I want the interaction with the chat and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Because like I said, to have to wait to get 10,000 subs or whatever. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, that is really that's not moving the goalpost. That is like just picking up the entire field and
That's changing the sport.
yeah, yeah, that's it, man. It's like, oh, we were playing football. No, now you're playing cricket. Wait, what? There's a little, there's a reference, but no, it just it doesn't make any. I mean, it probably makes sense to YouTube, but like to people like us, it really doesn't. It's like getting rid of Google Hangouts. that was a big thing because there's so many people that live stream, and not everybody is going to pay for $400 or $500 a year for that whatever they call it now, the gold standard version of Hangouts or whatever.
Right.
But so it doesn't make any sense to me why you would do that. You've got like this great platform and all these independent creators, and it's just corporate greed is all it just boils down to. So we shouldn't even be really surprised at this point, but still it doesn't make it any easier to deal with as a creator, and as a YouTuber, which is it's a real thing. I mean, this is like, this is what I do. This is not, I don't have a day job. This is what I do now. And I'm trying for that monetization. And like, I just saw another channel, and the guy like literally just started his channel probably a month ago, and he just hit like 1,600 subscribers and he's monetized already. And I'm like, how? I wish, but it's like you've got to have some kind of presence on like Reddit or something like that already to grow that quickly. I'm happy between like the last week and almost week and a half now, I've picked up 12 subscribers, and for a channel my size, that's great. I have no issue with that. And I like growing the way I do, because it's like I can kind of just tweak my content here and there, and just kind of make it still keep it interesting for everybody. Chris Wicks is in the chat. Hail, Chris Wicks. How you doing, man?
Hail, Chris Wicks.
Thank you for joining us. We've we've been talking some MCU and some Spider-Man. We're kind of getting into some YouTube things right now that are going to affect the creators. And I just wanted to say this because I know a lot of people will catch this on the playback. I got a message yesterday, and it doesn't matter who it's from. It was asking me if there was, and I really want to make this clear. There is no beef or feud or whatever you want to call it between myself and Groovinator from Raiders of the Lost Flicks. He is looking for a co-host for a show, and I will give him a plug right here because he's on my show all the time, and really good friend. No, he's looking for a co-host because he has a weekly show he wants to do, which that's awesome. And I would do it in a heartbeat, but I live stream 5 to 6 times a week now, and I do a video to 3 videos some days. I and I have responsibilities around the house, and I have a son, so I would do it in a heartbeat, but I do not have the time. So no, there is no issues between myself and Groovinator. He'll probably be on tomorrow night with us. But yeah, that's
I will be there.
yeah, Sal. We got tomorrow's going to be a big show. We might have like a 6-person stream tomorrow. It's yeah, it's going to be big. So I will definitely have my ringmaster hat on tomorrow night. um, but yeah, so I'm Monica is still, she might be there, she might not. So it might be 5 or 6. Um, but yeah, there's always the contingency plans. So no, it's just scheduling. But yeah, so I really hope Groove finds a co-host because he was really wanting to do this show. So yeah, but no, just to reiterate, there's no issues with him and I. It is strictly he wants his own show, and absolutely, man. Like I said, if that's why I kind of mentioned it. So somebody catching this on the playback, go over to Raiders of Lost Flicks and just shoot him a message or comment on his video, and just let him know, tweet, whatever. Um, but yeah, so I found that humorous when I got asked that question. I'm like, I am not a big enough channel to have heat with anybody right now.
Hmm.
It was just funny. But yeah, there's no issues there, man. So that's that. And just to kind of put that one to bed. Yeah, I think let's see. I mean, God, I do, say Monday night, Tuesday morning, Wednesday night, Thursday morning, Friday night. So that's enough for me. I'm good. And there might even come a time where the Monday night show might go away for a little while. But that's not right now. That's not here, nor there, nor anywhere. It's all it all depends on my life outside of YouTube. Because there's going to be times where I'm not going to be able to do shows during the week because I have family things, vacations and whatnot. So that is where I'm going to fall back to Anchor. And I'll be able to pre-record content to put on Anchor, because as of right now, we are pretty much done with the pre-recorded shows for the time being. Like I said, unless a live stream isn't possible, and then we'll revert back to Anchor. So,
Hmm.
but yeah, I had so many problems with that app. Connection. It used to be there was like a direct connect where you could just basically highlight your the people you're going to have on your stream with you.
Hmm.
And you click that and just send them. They get a link right, through the. It's a text message, but now, I mean, all you have, it's email. I mean, it's no big deal, but it was just like it was so much easier. Just it picks up your list. All you gotta do is like favorite the podcast. Then your name's on the list. You go down, click the list, bam, 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 and just connect. But
Hmm.
now it's like emails, and it's not a big deal, but they cut off your time after 2 hours. Your track will end, and Cody, Monica, and I lost an hour and a half of recording that way because none of us realized, because we were on such a roll, that the recording had stopped. So
Hmm.
it happens. So there's probably 50 some 60 episodes on Anchor. I'm going to move over to Podbean. They'll still be available on Anchor, iTunes, Spotify. I'm not going to delete any of them. There's a back catalog there, and obviously all the YouTube episodes of the podcast too. So yeah, we're not going anywhere. We're just kind of tweak the format and make things work better, and so we can still do the shows and get you the content out there.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you haven't subscribed to Sal's channel yet, I don't know what the hell you're doing. If you collect toys, or if you're just a fan, go ahead and give me your channel name, Sal.
I am the Dawn of 2 Cents Toys. That is all spelled out using normal human letters. Apparently, people have been trying to find me by using the number 2 and the cent sign, which I'm not sure how you do that on a keyboard because I'm a knuckle dragger. But yeah, it's 2 Cents Toys, 3 words all spelled out. I review many toys. At the moment, I've been doing unboxings recently because I've been getting a lot of stuff in the mail. Today, in fact, I should be doing my Luke Skywalker 3-pack if I can get through the packaging without, exploding. And if I have the time, I'm going to do the skiff. And then over the next 2 days, I'll be doing the Incredible Hulk from San Diego Comic-Con, as well as, let me look around my office at this pile of toys that I have to do. Yep, I'll just do some other stuff. I'll figure it out.
All right, that's 2 Cents Toys. Go on over and subscribe. We have a new there's a new show starting on the BBC, and I say it's a new show And the only reason I'm talking about a show on the BBC is because it was something I watched as a kid, and it's the source material is ingrained in the DNA of our country. Of course, I'm talking about War of the Worlds.
Oh,
They're rebooting that for a limited
right.
series on the BBC. Um, I liked the '80s show. I thought it was cool. It was fun. You know, it was a bit campy,
Hmm.
you know, but it was enjoyable. Like I said, I always used to watch that was on Saturdays with Friday the 13th, the series, and what else did I? Oh, Glow Wrestling. If anybody's familiar with Glow Wrestling, the
Yep.
gorgeous ladies of wrestling.
Yes.
Yep, I used to watch that War of the Worlds and Friday the 13th, the series on Saturday afternoons after cartoons were over as a kid in the 80s, and I have a bunch of the War of the Worlds episodes on VHS, I believe, somewhere, but I don't have a VCR, so yeah, I was kind of stoked about this, and it's just I'll post a link. Let me grab a link to the trailer, and I believe the main character in this is from Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom. He played what was the main villain? Um,
Oh, Buffalo Bob.
no, not him. The suit that was working for the old guy that was retconned in to be
Oh yeah.
Hammond's partner. James Cromwell's character, his kind of like number two.
Hmm.
I think
I know who you're talking about, but the name escapes me.
is it Rafe Spall? I'm gonna look it up real quick because it's gonna bother me. Um, yeah, I was like, man, I had no idea. Like I said, it's on BBC though, so I was like, you know, I'm not a big BBC watcher,
Hmm.
so I was just kind of I was kind of like, oh, all right, you know, this could be cool. Um, it looks like it's kind of set back in the day though. You know, it's judging by the weaponry that the military is using to fight the aliens. It looks like it's kind of older. So you know,
Hmm.
set you know in a different time period, which is like I'm all right with that. Let's see. Yeah, Rafe Spall is his name. He played Eli Mills. That's the character's name.
Okay.
But yeah, so he's like the main character in it, and he was actually one of the bright spots in Fallen Kingdom for me, just acting wise, um, because I thought he played his character pretty well. You know, there wasn't a lot I liked about that movie. That's a big thing that Monica and I go back and forth about because I just the story, you know, the story arc in those movies just angers me because
Hmm.
it's just so. And like I said, I love Chris Pratt, but I was laughing my ass off in that scene at the auction in the end. Now, have you seen Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom?
Unfortunately, yes, I have.
Okay, I thought you had. I want to make sure because there was somebody on. I can't remember who it was. That was like, I haven't seen that yet. I'm like, well, you know, you're not really missing much, but you know, if you're gonna watch the third one that's coming out, you might as well just watch this one too.
Hmm.
Just try not to have anything in your hand that that you can throw. Wait, and let me go to the chat here. Chris Wicks, he watched your he said Chris Wicks says he watched your latest videos and you didn't hold back. Yeah, he's talking about your rant on that one.
Oh yeah, I was feeling some type of way. I was in my feepies.
I don't
It's
blame you.
the language in that video is not suitable for children. So it was things needed to be said. Unfortunately, my voice doesn't carry a whole lot of weight on the internet, but I keep going, hoping that Hasbro will hear it someday and potentially, fix themselves. But the likelihood of that happening is low. Because as long as they can churn out and make the money, because they don't care. Like I've already bought it, they've already got my money. So
Mhm. Yeah, they don't believe in service after the sale is what is what you mean. I think you know it's just
right,
like, they just kind of we got your money. How the hell with you now?
yeah, and that's I I think people forget what made our economy so strong was, not necessarily customer service, but brand loyalty. And you get that by great customer service and, oh, our stuff that we made came faulty or damaged. Okay, yeah, we'll replace it. That's our bad. but they want to pass the buck to like, oh, that happened in shipping. It's like, motherfucker, the box was too small to begin with. You did that. Oh, well, that must have been our shipping house. It's like, you're still responsible for it. Like, that's the crazy thing. Like, if one of the guys I'm in charge of goes and does something stupid, I'm in as much trouble as he is because I'm responsible for him, even if I wasn't anywhere near it.
Yeah.
So
That's you don't get out of that just because they were out of sight, out of mind. That
mhm.
that responsibility still lives in you. That's yeah, but these, like I said, these companies, they just think, well, the next guy will buy something, so it really doesn't matter what one person thinks.
Yeah.
Well, if
Except
that's
that next person's only going to buy something if the people before him are like, "Hey, you should check this out." Because otherwise, if I go on the internet and we make those movies about how mad I am about fucking Hasbro stuff,
Mhm.
eventually, like if it starts with one, like when I worked in retail, I would get yelled at all the time. They'd be like, "Oh, well, this customer said that you were mean to them." I'm like, "Okay, did the other 80 I helped today tell you how nice I was and how helpful I was? Maybe that guy was just a dick." And they're like, "Well, it doesn't matter. No one's going to go home and be like, man, that guy really helped me with this and that." But that person who you were mean to is going to go on the internet and we're going to lose 15 sales just because of that. And I'm like, there's no way to prove that, first off. Second of all, fuck it. You're Walmart. You can handle it.
Yep. Yep, because Walmart, like they gobble up all the competition. Like I said, I live in a relatively small town. There's about 8,000 people. And Walmart is like the only game in town as far as like large chain retail goes. There's
Hmm.
there's no Target here, anything like that. It's Walmart. And there used to be what, three independent grocery stores, and then Walmart came in, and now there is one, which is it's Family Fare, which is owned by Spartan Corporation, um, and like that used to be like the grocery store. It was
Hmm.
like called Glenn's. They put me when I first started working for that private security firm. They put me in the Spartan stores. We were contracted to do undercover loss prevention through them. You want to talk about a fun job? Oh my
Hmm.
God. Yeah, try try apprehending somebody when they're fresh out of jail and they've stole a fifth of a fifth of Gentleman Jack and not be able to use any physical contact to stop them from leaving with it.
Hmm.
Yeah, that was
It's like putting a dog on a chain. All they can do is bark at you. They can't touch you.
yep. And I had there was one time where I chased this guy down and I'm like I wanted to just because I could have just reached out and grabbed him by the back of it because he was a skinny ass little meth head, which
Hmm.
was shocking that I ran him down because they're like crackheads, man. They're fucking quick.
Hmm.
They move like roaches when you turn a light on. This dude had like what was it? We ended up catching him because his dumbass came back.
Mm.
50 He had like $50 worth of liquor, and then he had like $100 worth of Blu-rays. And,
Jesus.
and he tried to he had these big ass pants and this big ass coat on in like August. And
That's not a red flag.
oh, as soon as he walked in the door, my supervisor was with me, and I spotted him first. So I texted her. I'm like, hey, I'm watching one right now, and I told her where we were. He circled like the liquor aisle 4 times, went to the Blu-rays, and I watched him pick everything out, and he shoving them in his pants, and he puts a fifth in each pocket, and I'm like, oh my God, this guy's like literally like he's a moron. Like
Hmm.
so when we stopped him, because I said, you watch the checkout, because he paid for a few things. Of course, he's using his bridge card, EBT, whatever you want to call it.
Hmm.
Michigan, they call it the bridge card. Pays for a few things, and he's walking to the exit, and I just kind of popped out in front of the door. I'm like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, what's up? I'm like, why don't you just go ahead and turn around and walk right back in? And he looked at me. I'm like, and it was like at this point, I'm like, either you walk in or I'm just going to grab you by the back of your fucking neck and drag you in. I'm like, no, I'm not. I think at that point, I'm like, you can just fire me because I'm not going to sit here and let this guy just walk by me. Like,
Hmm.
the product doesn't, it doesn't affect my paycheck at all. To me, it was just like, okay, this is just so obvious. Like, you deserve to be hit in the face with a truck for this. Like,
Hmm.
what were you thinking? So we take him back to the office. I get him to walk back there. And I could pat search people, and I always had rubber gloves with me. I'm like, just in case.
Hmm.
And I was like, I'm going to search you. I was like, I need you to empty your pockets, and before I do, I need you to tell me if you have anything that could poke, scratch, cut, or, you know, in other words, injure me, make me bleed or anything. And
Intramural yourself. Anything to declare at this point?
yep. And he says, I do. So he starts emptying his pockets and he pulls out like a half pack of cigarettes and a bunch of change. And then he sets a needle down on the counter. And at that point, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to touch you. He goes, I'm diabetic. He goes, it's my insulin. I'm like, be it as it may, I'm like, I'm not professional law enforcement. I says, and for what I get paid, and I said this right in front of the store manager, my partner, who's my boss. I'm like, I'm not. And she couldn't do it because she's a female, he's a male. I'm like, so the sheriff's department shows up. This kid had been arrested like 3 times before for, you know, minor shoplifting and stuff like that. When the deputy walked in, he'd arrested this kid once before. The kid just started crying. Like, but then like I kind of felt bad for him. And this is just the human in me because the cop just kind of started berating him. He was like, I want you to apologize to these people. And the guy kind of like had his head down. The kid was probably like, I'd say like 25, 26. I'm about 30, 31 at the time. And the deputy was like, well, he goes, if you're not going to do it, I'm going to talk to you like I do my 4-year-old. You did something wrong. You need to say, I'm sorry, because you obviously don't know what you're doing. I'm like, oh my God. And then the kid had weed on when the cop pat searched him. He found a little bag of weed. And I shit you not, on everything I love, that deputy right in front of myself, the store manager, and my partner opens it up, smells it, and he goes, oh, we'll just save this for later, and put it in his pocket right behind his badge, his left breast pocket. I'm like, oh, like everything else went in an evidence bag, you know. And the officer did confirm that the guy was diabetic because he knew him. So
Right.
it was just like, I'm like, he goes, no, you were fine not doing that. But I'm just sitting there, and my partner Jackie looks at me, and I'm like, did he just put that in his damn pocket? Like, holy shit! Like, this is like it's a small town, you know, sheriff's department, but I'm like, I don't want to see you, you know, writing this kid up for having that, or, you know, and you're, you know, come on, man, like, not in front of us, you know, if anything, you know, come on, you know, like, I ain't got nothing against it. You do your thing, man. You know, you put your life on the line. I ain't gonna, you know, if you want to do a little something on the side, hey, you know, but don't make it obvious, man. Like, I was kind of dumbfounded by that whole thing.
Not everyone's clean.
No.
So it just we see it at work, and it's unfortunate because people they have this duality of like cops should be 100% pure at all times, and then they also want to demonize cops. It's like, well, you know, not everybody's perfect.
Yep.
And you know, you go through screenings, you go through checks, you go through tests, everything else, but at the end of the day, bad eggs do get through because we're not mind readers.
And that's it, man. You know, like I said, my dad was a retired Detroit narcotics officer, and I asked him, I said, did you ever take anything when you were, you know, doing raids, and, you know, you had this, your you know, your scene secured, and, you know, he goes, honestly, he goes, the only thing I ever took was vinyl. I'm like, records? He's like, yeah. He goes, where do you think you got all those Temptations records and, you know, the Isaac Hayes records and shit like that? Because I have those now. I got the Shaft soundtrack on vinyl. And he's like, yeah. He goes, I never took money. He goes, the city paid my salary. He goes, you know, I felt bad enough about taking some records. He goes, but what the hell are they going to do with them? They're going to get thrown away. You know? Like, so he's like, he goes, I didn't, you know, he goes, I work for my money. You know, that's the way my dad always is. And I respect that, you know, but I'm like, records are one thing, you know, taking, you know, guns or drugs or money. That's another moral, you know, gray ambiguity. That's no.
Yeah, that's the struggle, man. Like, you do a raid like that, and they've got cash all over the place. They've got this, that, and the other, and until all of it's inventoried and evidence, that temptation's there to be like, you know, I could just pick up this stack of hundos and, you know, pay my water bill or pay this or take. And so that's where integrity comes in. Like, you have to have a lot of integrity to be a cop. So
yeah, that's, you know, I was at one point I was going to trying to get into the Michigan State Police Academy, and it was like 2001. You have to wait till you're 21.
Mhm.
And I went through, did the civil service test, and my recruiter was my dad's best friend. I was going to be a motor carrier officer, do the weights and measures and stuff like that. But you're still a state trooper. And I did the civil service test. He goes, "You're going to have to score like a 98 or 99." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Because you're a white male." He's like, that's just the way it is. And I'm like, okay. He goes, because, they have a sliding scale for who they let in based on score percentage, which they did at the time. I don't know if they still do. This is almost 20 years ago now.
Mhm.
But I mean, also the state police used to have a height requirement too. You couldn't be under
Mhm.
6 foot tall.
Right.
So I scored good on my test, and I had to go sit through a targeted selection panel interview. At the time, the girl I had been dating for 2 years, her aunt was the secretary for the captain of the entire motor carrier division for the state police.
Mhm.
So I had met all the lieutenants that I would be interviewed with them, no problem. They sent me you have to go do your standardized psychological.
Yep. Mhm.
I had to go to, where was it, Grand Rapids, and I met with a police psychologist, and this guy did not like police officers at all.
Mhm.
Like at all. And he failed me on a psychiatric. So I had to appeal the decision, and I had to go to see another psychiatrist on the opposite side of the state, take a day
Mhm.
off work, go over there and do this. But I'm like, it's worth it. It's a career. So I went over there, and, they'll interview you. He interviewed me for like an hour and a half. And he says, "I can't give you my decision now. I'll call you later tonight." I'm like, okay. Cause I was in like West Bloomfield, Michigan. It's like a 3.5 hour drive from where I live.
Mhm.
And, I get home, and he called me at night, and he's like, "I can't give you a pass into the academy." I'm like, "Okay, why?" He's like, "Well, I don't agree with the other, doctor's opinion of you." He goes, because the guy just said I was like mentally unstable. I'm like, I'm 21 years old. I'm like, I really, I'm like, never been in any trouble.
Mhm.
There's no history of violence or anything. I mean, that was it. And he's like, "I just think you're young and you're indecisive about your career, and this isn't the career for you if that's your mindset." And I'm like, "Well, that's a little bit easier to take than being called crazy." You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
So I
It's an
turned.
at that point, it's an actual evaluation, not just like, "I don't like you."
Mhm.
So
Yep. So I never went back, and then I went back to college like 9 years later. I got my corrections certificate, my criminal justice degree, and I worked at that private security firm. And I'm like, I've told you this. They wanted, after when they fired me basically as the store detective. They're like, "Well, we want to rehire you immediately and move you up to Camp Grayling, the military installation around here. And give you that, get you into the armed guard position, and, working, out at the gate." And I'm like, I told you about it. I'm like, no, no,
Mhm.
no. My dad even told me, because I would not take that job. He
No.
goes, "You're going to be fucking miserable." He goes, It's not a good detail to have." He
Mm-mm.
goes, he goes, "If you were, patrol or something, whatever." He goes, "But that is just no." You're going to hate it. So I turned it down, and yeah, I went to work for UPS at that point. But yeah, I was like, no, that's just not my cup of tea. But
Mhm.
I had an offer to work at a couple jails as a CO, and at that point I just got into the car business. So I'm like, I stuck with that. Um, because the COs back then, we're talking like 2012 in Michigan, a lot of the counties, they were getting paid like $11 an hour with no benefits.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, no, no, thank you. Now it's like, I think 18, 19, you work like 4 10s, and and you get full benefits, which
Mhm.
is really good. Um, and that's something I could, kind of still, I'm not too old to fall back on that if I really wanted to, but I don't see it happening at this point.
Mhm.
I'm pretty well set on just being a dad. I'm good with that, and a YouTuber.
Mhm.
I I say what you want. I'm good. I'm all right with it. But no, I have. It's funny because we got to watch. One of my best friends got married, and his best man was a county sheriff, and he brought over his dash cam tape for us to watch, which
Mhm.
which was not supposed to happen. But oh my God, was that amusing? And it's funny because the my neighbor across the street now, I got to see his son-in-law, get arrested. Now, this is when he first started dating it would be his future wife. She had an 86 Olds Cutlass Calais. He stole her car, led the state troopers and the sheriff's department on like a chase for about probably 20, 30 minutes almost around like the area where I live. And he ended up out in the woods in this power line road. And this is like a little ass car with like a 4-cylinder. He blew the motor up and then locked himself in the car. He's surrounded, and I got to watch one of the officers finally, like, I mean, there's 4 or 5 of them at gunpoint. I mean, this is not going to end well. Like, this is like, the last stand. And finally, one of them just blows the window out. He was unarmed in the car. He's just locked in, but they didn't want to hurt himself or anything. And one of them blows the window out with his baton and just drug him out of the car. This guy's like, I mean, he's skinny, like, 130, 40 pounds, soaking wet, wearing boots, about 5'9". And it was, oh my God, did it look hilarious on camera. Oh, there was, I mean, some of the shit we saw, it was funny. I'm like, I can imagine what we didn't see,
Right.
Oh boy. But yeah, that was, and the guy that did it, he's SWAT now. I just talked to him not long ago. He's been on SWAT for like 10 years.
Oh wow.
Yeah. He's a pretty cool guy. Somebody I didn't really, we graduated a year behind me in school. Didn't really talk to him much in school. We kind of got to know him a little bit better after we graduated. But yeah, we were talking about the, how he's liked it, what he's got to do and stuff like that. So it was pretty neat to kind of hear, some of that stuff. And yeah, that, God, man, that I wouldn't, to be law enforcement nowadays. Oof, man, that's got to be tough. Especially with the cell phone cameras. I mean, you can't even, you use the wrong tone with somebody and they're just, it's yeah. Like I said, my hat's off to law enforcement, military, all you guys, man, because yeah, people are just insane nowadays. And that kind of ties into this whole Joker thing. And, we talked about this last night. You were in the chat when I was reading the tweets, weren't you?
Yep.
I mean, these people are insane. Like they're insane. And now it's just, like I said, it's if I look in the mirror, am I supposed to be afraid of myself?
I mean, I don't know what's more dangerous now, us or a gun.
It's kind of hard to tell nowadays, but
it's great. Like what's funny is they always fail to mention, their own shock troopers, I guess, if that's how we want to discuss this topic. Like, just speaking about, body cams, cell phone cameras and all that. I don't know if you've heard of these people, but there's something called sovereign citizens.
Mm-mm.
Okay, it's these people that are born in the U.S., they have birth certificates, but they consider themselves a sovereign citizen, that they're not a citizen of the United States, even though they were born here and have birth certificates, and therefore our laws do not apply to them. So if you pull them over for speeding, you'll say you were speeding, driving, blah, blah, blah. They say, I'm not driving, I'm traveling.
Oh.
And because they're traveling, they have a, there's this whole mentality that there's a quote right to drive act, or the right to drive movement, where it's like, I don't need a license to drive because it's a pursuit of happiness.
Yeah.
Traveling makes me happy, so if I'm traveling, I don't need it, but if I'm driving, I do. And these same people fall into a category, they call themselves First Amendment auditors. So yeah, it makes it sound official and all that, but it's not. It's these people, they show up at military installations, and the First Amendment protects you that as long as you're in public, you are allowed to record or take pictures of anything that you can see while you're in public, like while you're on public property. And so jurisdictions, tend to end after a certain point, and so they'll go right up to that line while they're still in public property, and they'll sit there and they'll take pictures and record on, things that are going on installations.
Yeah.
Solely to get a provocation out of the people there, because we have things in place that we have to do and respond and all that kind of stuff. And then they're basically start screaming, I'm allowed to do this, I'm recording you. And it's like, okay, cool, you're allowed to do that, the First Amendment allows you to do that, but don't step over this line right here, or it's going to be a different story. And then they'll react to any little thing. Like someone could, be working on a truck or something, and they'll walk out with a wrench to go work on the truck. And they're like, "Why is that man carrying that wrench? Is he coming to assault me?" And they're like, "No, he's going to work on this truck." Like, so they're trying to get something out of you, so
Mhm.
you'll like say something or do something, then they can sue you basically.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
so it's like that's just as bad. You know what I mean? Like they're always
Yeah.
these these incels or blah blah blah. It's like it's funny because whenever we use the term incel at work, we're talking about you.
Yeah.
Like,
Those are usually the ones too. And it's like you talked about those sovereign citizens. Those you said the traveling thing. And I've seen so many videos on Facebook of these people and they get pulled over and it's like, I have the right to travel unmolested. And it's like, um, yeah, but you need to still follow the laws of, and then yeah, you said that whole, well, I don't, I don't follow those laws, those don't apply to me. And it's like, oh boy, here we go. We got one of these the special kind of idiots today, and
right?
ugh, I can't, like I said, my own cognitive awareness or, sense of self or the way I was raised, but it's like, I could never dream of talking to a law enforcement officer like that. Like I, I,
Mhm.
I almost got arrested for defending my brother-in-law, my ex-brother-in-law, at one point, and it was to the point. I mean, I was lit. We were partying. It was the canoe race weekend up here. This is a big deal, and we walked down to this bridge. And there's probably about 300-400 people on this bridge watching the racers go by, and this is late at night. So we've been drinking all day, and this guy, starts. My brother-in-law was Mexican, and
Mhm.
he starts running his mouth to him, a bunch of like racial shit, and I'm just like, no. And then the guy kind of, walked by me and threw a shoulder at me. And I just grabbed him by the back of his shirt and spun him around. I'm like, you want to try that again? And by the time, next thing I know, this guy's walking away laughing. And I've got 6 deputies surrounding me. And I'm like, whoa, okay. And all I did automatically, I put my hands up behind my head, locked my fingers, and I said, I am not going to move. I was like, you guys, I was like, what do you want me to do next?
Mhm.
Even intoxicated, I had that. I was like, I know better than to pick this fight. I'm like,
Right.
I had no desire to anyway. I had no beef with them. They're doing their jobs. Um, and one of the guys, he was small. I mean, this guy, I was probably 32. I look at this dude, he's probably like 5. County sheriff, he's like 5'5", 5'6". I'm like, how old are you? And he goes, I'm 22. I'm like, man, I'm like, I am not going to give you guys a hard time. I'm like, thank you for all that you do. I'm like, our cabin is right up the hill right there. I'm like, if you guys want to escort me off, and 2 of them just kind of walked me and she was my fiance at the time, my wife, up off out of the crowd and everything. And I apologized, shook their hand, and they were like, nah, just go home, have a good night. I'm like, all right, I'm walking my brother, and during this whole thing, my brother-in-law just disappeared.
Mhm.
Like, this little son of a bitch, just like, I couldn't even. I'm like, you little chicken shit weasel. Like, basically, he was gonna like let me take all this shit. I'm
Mhm.
like, yeah. And then when my sister divorced him, I find out all this stuff about him. Like, I should have just let that guy beat the shit out of you.
Mhm.
I should have whipped the dude's ass for being a racist POS. But at the same time, it's like I want to grab my brother-in-law and just wring his neck for being a dick and just being like a little weasel. Like
Right.
it's just like this entire mentality of people these days. I don't understand it. Like I said.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. Like, despite what the media tells you, like 99% of the time, like none of us want to resort to violence. Like we'd much rather just someone be like, "Hey, you know what, my bad," and we're like, "Okay." Like it's all about escalation, de-escalation, and use of force. Like, yeah, the ones you find on Facebook and all that shit, yeah, those are the extreme cases where shit goes wrong or adrenaline and all that bad training, all that kind of shit. But it's like I'd much rather use my words and just be like, "Hey, man, what's going on? Like, walk me through what happened, so that
Yes.
way we can just solve this." Like, I'd rather be the one that escorts you up to your cabin. All right, have a great night. Caveat to that: if we hear from that person again, it's going to be a different story.
Yep.
But it's like we don't want to be violent. Serve and protect. That's
Hmm.
what we do, and it's just you know unfortunately, and I mean unfortunately, like I hate seeing it happen. Unfortunately, it doesn't always resolve it doesn't the situation doesn't resolve that way. Sometimes wrong time, wrong place, wrong set of mind, wrong circumstance, and the shit that happens and it goes sideways. And I'm not trying to justify anything that these officers particularly do because I wasn't there. I don't know the whole situation.
Mhm.
And usually it's these young bucks, like they're scared, they don't know what to do,
Yep.
and shit happens. But 9 times out of 10, anytime you walk up to a police officer, we're not trying to start a fight, we're not looking to be violent, we're just trying to help.
You you're trying to do your job and get home to your family.
Hmm.
That's what it amounts to, man. It's they're normal people outside of the uniform,
Hmm.
held to almost
An impossible
an
standard.
impossible standard. Yes, absolutely. But just people like everybody else. So yeah, everybody's got families and other responsibilities outside of their jobs. You want to do your shift and go home and be able to do your thing and do what you want to do. So yeah,
Hmm.
that's and that's the problem. And like I said, to kind of tie this back in entertainment, we were kind of talking about Joker.
Right. Yeah.
This
That's where all this ties into.
Yep, it does. It all goes back to this Joker movie. And this is a movie. It's entertainment. It's fantasy. It's escapism. This
Hmm.
is, Arthur Fleck is not a real person. I mean, the character, there's an actor that plays him that's paid millions of dollars to play pretend and get into this role. So
Hmm.
for people, and I understand, the disenfranchised, you gravitate towards certain things, but this is where you really have to use that thing upstairs for something else than a hat rack, and
Hmm.
just say this is entertainment. This is not reality. This is not feasible in reality. This is not the way you get results and get things done. you know so I don't know, man. That's and to entertainment for the actions of people who are already in that mindset of doing bad things is it does a disservice to to the entertainment industry and to law enforcement, because then you're making them do things that they don't, oh well, we need this and we need that out of you now. Well, it's like, wait, what? This is a movie, we're talking about here. you know all those tweets, oh well, we need extra law enforcement in theaters and all this stuff, and it's like, well, okay, well, I understand precautions. I mean, I really do, especially with something like this that's obviously got people riled up, and it doesn't look, like I said, it's not like you've seen a lot of chatter out of, well, I don't really pay attention. I'm not on 4chan. I'm not on Reddit.
Hmm.
I don't have time for that shit. Just,
Yeah. Like the last time I was on 4chan, I was in college, and everything there is it's a joke. Like
mhm,
everything, it's all like it's hyper satire, and it's all supposed to be funny, tongue in cheek. But unfortunately, there's a reason why there's an age restriction on the
mhm.
website. You're supposed to be 18 or above to go there because you should, at that point in your life, be mentally developed enough to differentiate this is a joke. This isn't real life. This is just memes and people being funny. But unfortunately, people that are too young, while their minds are still developing, get on there and they think that this is how people actually behave, actually think. And it's, I say a lot that the internet was not made for kids. Like it's for adults, but people cling to these movements or what they think, is supposed to be real life, and then shit gets out of hand.
Yep. And that's it. I think a lot of it is, like you said, that they're just looking for some place to belong,
Hmm.
even if it's the wrong, they're doing it the wrong way.
Yep. Everyone wants to find their tribe.
Yep. Yep. And you've said that before, and it's the nail in the head. Everybody wants to find their tribe. And that's like, they talk about the fandom, the fandom menace and stuff like that. It's like, I've never really met any militant people in this group. I've
No.
met a bunch of cool people who are content creators, or just like to make memes or have discussions about entertainment, but I've
Hmm.
never met anybody that's like, we got to stop this because we don't want minorities in movies. It's like, we have to the real situation is, well, we just preferred if you entertained us instead of preaching to us.
Hmm.
Nobody said, I don't want a black superhero, I don't want an Asian superhero. It's been, or I don't want this, or I don't want a woman. It's been, well, that was miscast, or man, they really screwed that up because the source material, did it this way.
Hmm.
It's never really been, outside of maybe like a couple, you're always going to have one or two, but it hasn't been anything like violent or anything. It's just been kind of somebody being an asshole.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing major that would even lead you to believe that, wow, this guy could be, violent or something. No, it's like the guy's just an asshole with no self-awareness.
Right.
you know so I don't know. I can't understand. I can't get my head around that because I'm not wired that way to think that, well, this is the way it should be. Well, no, it shouldn't be that way. You can, that's it. We just want to be entertained. That's to me, that's what the Phantom Menace is all about is we want to be entertained, and, don't give us, your political ideologies packaged as entertainment when we're just trying to, be able to turn our brains off for a while and, watch a superhero movie and get lost in it and enjoy these
Mm-hmm.
characters that we've, enjoyed our whole lives.
Yeah, there was a word for that in Nazi Germany, where political ideologies were packaged as entertainment. It was called propaganda,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't. It's this crazy world we live in, and I don't even mind movies about politics. Like, look at the prequels; they were loaded with
Yeah,
politics, but it was that reality's politics.
exactly.
Or like, I don't mind, like, what was that Frost Nixon movie, or
Mhm.
like there are good movies about politics, but that's what it's about walking into it. It's not like you're gonna watch this movie, aimed at, I don't know, young adults or something, and then all of a sudden it's all preachy and everything. It's there. There is an art in metaphor. Like, if I didn't know any better, because I'm, we're older now and I can see it, but it's like the X-Men, for example. Like, not initially. This was later on. This is towards the late '70s. They started to mold, Xavier and Magneto after Malcolm X and Martin Luther King Jr.
Mhm.
Not respectively, because I mix those names up. But it was metaphor. Like, you didn't notice it right away.
Yep.
So, and it was, okay, I can see that, and that was more applied after the fact. Like, people drew those parallels after the fact. But it's at the same time, like, metaphor is a hell of a thing. But if you notice it right out of the gate, if they're not even trying to hide it, it's like, come on, man. Like, if you wanted to make a movie about that, make a movie about that. Don't use pop culture characters to try and push that message.
And that's where they get lost, though, because these people that are creating this kind of stuff now don't have a clue how to create normal escapist entertainment without logging those ideologies into it. And it's sad because it's basically going to ruin a genre of entertainment for in the next generation. Like you said about the prequels, they were, that world, the Star Wars galaxies politics, not, real world, like the Canto Bite scene from
Mm-hmm.
the last dumpster fire was basically an animal rights, advertisement. It might as well have been sponsored by, was it the ASPCA or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's ridiculous, but that's where we're at now. And I mean, it's like I said, that's why it's so important for us as a group to just create, we create our content, we do our thing, and enough of us make, the powers that be aware that, this isn't going to fly for long. You can do this now, but it's not sustainable because it's not going to sell. Get woke, go broke, kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. And it's not even that, like, it's so crazy because woke, I think I've said this before on a live stream, like, woke, back when I first heard about it, which of course was in college, just meant that you had a more world view of things.
Yes.
Like, you were more globally conscious of what was going on. And you wanted to be woke. You wanted to be aware of things happening across the world because there's a ripple effect. But now woke just means, like, I virtue signal more than you do, kind of thing.
Yep. And
And
that's what's
it,
evolved to.
yeah, and they don't realize, like, so I'll use a personal story as to draw parallels to what's going on. So, as a kid, my mother was very religious. She still is, and would forcibly, like, drag me and my siblings to church every, Sunday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights. And as a kid, you don't want to be told about fire and brimstone. You're like, I just want to make sure I watch Dragon Ball Z today. Like, that's, you know, and you kind of come to resent that a little bit. And so That's why now, as an adult, I'm not religious by any stretch of the imagination because I dug my heels in, like, no, I don't want to do this. Quit making me do this. And what they don't realize is that by forcing all this woke stuff on people and forcing them to try to digest it in their entertainment, people are going to dig their heels in and say, no, I don't want any more of this. And it's like, you're just going to come off as a joke later on.
Yeah, and that's a big thing too, because I was the same way. My mom made us go to church as kids, and it's to the point now where I don't want to go because I don't really believe in organized religion anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I don't, especially the church I grew up in was Catholic, so I have my own reasons for not wanting to go back to that. But
Mm-hmm.
that's yeah. I can understand what you're saying about the whole woke thing, because I'm a little bit older, but it's basically the same thing. Like I remember when when people started using that term, yeah, it didn't mean anywhere near close to what it does now, and it just kind of devolved into this weird, SJW ideology of what it is and what it's supposed to be, by comparison to what it was, and it's comical. It's almost like a parody of itself. The movement has become its own parody.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know where does it end? What's their end? They don't really have an end game with this. That's the thing.
Yeah, there's always, as Qui-Gon said, there's always a bigger fish.
Yep.
Like, no matter how woke they try to get, there's always got to be someone else that's like, well, actually, this, that, and the other. And they like to cherry pick, events that have happened, and they use that to inform their entire worldview. And it's like, okay, so you're taking one situation out of billions. Got it. And it's like I made a comment. I think it was in the world class group, and someone came at me sideways. It didn't end well for them. It was during that whole thing where they're talking about wanting to recast Magneto as a black guy.
Yeah.
And it's one of those things where it's like, it's the guy from Westworld that played Arnold. They're talking about having him play Commissioner Gordon. And I was like, he's a great actor, like, but I'm sorry, I kind of went off on a tangent inside my tangent. So Magneto,
Mhm.
they want to recast him as a black guy, and it's like, okay, like, I'm not surprised first off that you want to do that, but Magneto, like, his background informs how his worldview on humanity versus the mutants. Like, he was a Holocaust survivor,
Yes.
so he knows the true evils of that mankind is capable of. And so my comment was, I was like, okay, so let me get this straight. I was like, being black trumps being Jewish in Germany during the Holocaust. Got it. And I was like, cue up that article where someone was complaining that Samuel L. Jackson had more dialogue than Brie Larson in a trailer. So I was like, okay, so let me get I was like, so in the hierarchy of Hollywood, white women come first, then all black people apparently, then Holocaust survivors, then okay, got it. And then someone came at me sideways. I was like, no, I was like, that's commentary on Hollywood, how nothing's ever good enough.
Yep.
Like, there's always going to be something that's more woke than the other thing, and they're eating each other alive. And some more words were exchanged, and ultimately they stopped responding. But
Yeah.
I was like, it's nothing. It's not me personally saying like, okay, got it. Like, I understand now. I'm like, no, I'm just pointing out the hypocrisy and all the shit that people spew, and I'm just, because someone was like, that there were black Jews, or the Nazis rounded up black people too, right? I was like, yeah, I'm aware. They rounded up gypsies. They rounded up anyone that was foreign. They rounded up Polish people. Like, I get it. Like, I'm pretty well versed in history.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm like, the point, they were missing the point, and the point was that Hollywood just has this like level of wokeness. I'm just trying to figure out, okay, so what is the most woke character we can get that no one can say is offensive?
That's it. And now there's, like I said, you're talking about sweeping it's basically like revisionist history is what they want to do. Anything that hurt anybody's feelings, they want to sweep it under the rug. It didn't happen. And you're doing the same thing with the Holocaust in that respect, as you're trying to recast these characters that's their backstory. They're rooted in that. That's molded Magneto to who he is. It's made him that angry, want to lash out at man, mankind. So it's just, or as Justin Trudeau says, people kind.
Right.
But I just I don't see a world where and they were like, oh well, we'll get Denzel Washington to play. I'm like, Denzel Washington is an amazing actor. He's
Mm-hmm.
great. Like I haven't really seen a movie with him where he's had a bad role, but he's not Magneto.
No.
He's not, and he's already played Malcolm X.
Yeah, he's already done it once before.
Yeah. So do you really need him to reprise that role? But
Not only that, but I'm pretty sure Denzel's got on record multiple times that he does not do sequels. I think Equalizer 2 is the only sequel that he's ever done. And if they're going to make him Magneto, unless they kill Magneto off in the first movie, which would be a huge detriment to X-Men because Magneto's like has this wonderful arc where he goes from being a villain to being he's Charles's best friend. So he kind of ping pongs back and forth, not knowing like trying to find himself and lead the Brotherhood of Mutants, and it's this wonderful arc and this rich character. So if you kill him off in the first movie, what are you doing to your franchise?
And that's something that would be horrible if they did that, because then they'd be like, oh well, we could put this person in. No, well, no, you don't do that, because he's woven through the tapestry. It's like he's a major threat in it. So you don't just throw that away in the name of race bending a character to appease the 2019 masses who demand that sort of thing. You know? But
and that's the thing. So let me. I'm sure you've seen the Red Letter Media before video about the prequels where they tell you to describe a character without saying what they are. Like you can't use the word Jedi, you can't use like a race or anything like that. And it's like these so in my in my own head canon, like I've thought about this a little bit, trying to think of like what would be the ideal SJW character for them. And it's like, and try to describe that character without saying what they are. And you can't do it.
yeah, you can't. Not one of them.
So you could say, I don't know, preachy maybe, but it's like Qui-Gon Jinn, stoic. That's kind of like it. That's why like they were using that to compare to the original trilogy characters, where it's like, Han Solo, he's brave, he's conflicted, things like that. But it's like the new characters, like trying to describe Vice Admiral Holdo without saying what she is.
Yeah, you can't do it.
Yeah,
you can't do it because there's no development. There's
right.
only that she's a feminist. That's basically her entire character. She's just a intersectional feminist. She's not going to take no shit from no man.
Right, but that's what she is. Like it's like saying Jedi or saying smuggler.
Yep.
And that's the other thing. Like, I've been around the world 2 or 3 times now, and I've met many people from many walks of life, and I've got really great friends from all different walks of life. And I never think of, oh, that's my friend Y, and he's gay and he's Latino. Like I never think like that. I'm like, oh, that's my friend Y. He and I play video games. We like Pokemon. We do this together. Like, but the characters that these people are making, they're like, that's who they are. It's like, oh, I'm gay. That's my character. It's like, that's not a character.
No, that's a trait.
Yeah, like that's not the same thing. And in their minds, like that's what's more important. It's like what they have between their legs and who they sleep next to at the end of the night or at the end of the day. That's more important than anything else that the character can do.
They try to prop them up like that, and it never works. Never works. Good night, David. Thank you for joining us, man.
Bye, Dave.
Yeah, that just really, like you said, you hit the nail on the head with that one. Yeah, they can't do it. They can't write good characters without slapping that big billboard on them of what they are and what they represent. They can't just be a well-developed, well-rounded character, So I don't know, but I think this might be a good spot to leave it off. We're at 1 hour and 45 minutes. Hey, that's all right, man. I think today was a good show. I had fun. Thank you for joining me, Sal.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Anytime, man. I appreciate it. And Sal will be on episode 66 tomorrow night with a rather robust lineup that will include myself, Sal Vador, Will Vendetta, Coach Loudy. I believe Groove will be on hand. And MJ is she's going to be a game time decision, but yeah. So we'll see who's all there. And it will be a much more organized show than the one last night. I do apologize for that. Chris Wicks, ETEP, top of the morning. Top of the morning to you, Chris. The Elite, thank you for joining us. David Applegate. I don't know who else is here. Appalachian American will be listening on playback. I know that. So thank you to everybody who joined us this morning. Be sure to bitch slap that like button on the way out. Don't even use baby powder, just raw dog that shit. Just slap it. And go over to Sal Vador's channel, 2 Cents Toys. Subscribe to him. We're going to get him over 100 subscribers. Now you helped me. Now it's time to repay the favor. We're going to get him up over 100. So thank you everybody for joining. This has been About Last Night, episode number 7. I will be back shortly with I'm going to do a review of The Prodigal Son with Tom Payne, which I watched episode 2 last night. So I'll be reviewing the first 2 episodes of that, which was a series premiere in episode number 2. Until then, I am Etep Wakuyan of the Place to Be Reviews. I have been here with all of yous, and I would like to say thank you so much for joining us one more time. Go on over. We have a Facebook page, The Place to Be Reviews. We have a group you can join. You'll be vetted before you join that, but that is the official Place to Be Reviews fan page on Facebook. You can follow us on Twitter, The Place to Be Reviews, Instagram, The Place to Be Reviews. You can email me, theplacetobereviews@mail.com, the world's best mail. I'm Etep Wakuyan signing out, and if I don't see you, have a good day and a pleasant tomorrow.
Cubs win! Cubs win!
I can